Back on Tide Talks, presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, proud to be the official healthcare system of Princeton Athletics. Joining us today from his home in Avon, Connecticut, Princeton baseball senior outfielder Chris Davis. Chris, how are you holding up?
I'm holding up well, Cody. How are you?
I'm hanging in here. Want to talk to you about your role with VSAC on campus. You guys, of course, as student athletes trying to navigate this difficult time. How have you been helping each other?
Yeah, we actually had a meeting last Friday on Zoom, and the first portion of the meeting, we were talking about some different social media initiatives. We had some representatives from the social media team there, talking about different things that we can kind of get involved in from the student-athlete perspective to, bring the community together during this time that I know is difficult for everyone, and just kind of stay connected. And reach out and make sure that everybody's doing well. The second portion of the meeting was more business as usual. We went over some Ivy League legislation, voted on that. I know they've got an Ivy League SAC meeting coming up this week, and wanted to make sure that we were prepared for that. So a little bit of a mix of dealing with things as they are in the present state and then continuing business as usual.
You want to talk about on-field, so you battle through injuries as a freshman, work your way into the starting lineup as a sophomore, have what you consider a breakout year last year as a junior, had a very good season for Princeton. How tough was it getting the news that your senior season was going to be cut short just 7 games in?
Yeah, it was difficult for sure. Obviously, we understand the importance of the public health crisis that we're going through right now, and certainly respected and appreciated the efforts that scientists and doctors and other experts were making in terms of this quarantine, this self-isolation, this sort of lockdown that we're going through. So understanding that from a logical standpoint, understanding that from an emotional standpoint, but at the same time, it was obviously very difficult to deal with something that we had worked really hard as a team for, that we had really felt like we had a really good chance in the Ivy League this year, and it was difficult to see that slip through our fingers from something that was out of our control. But at the same time, it's something that's a little bit bigger than baseball, and you kind of have to understand that it's a tough pill to swallow. But hopefully that it ends up better for everybody with the measures we're taking. So.
You guys only got 2 weekends and 7 games under your belt. That final time you and your teammates were able to take the field, you headed down to Oxford, Mississippi, a 3-game series at Ole Miss. I know the results weren't what you wanted, but 8,000 plus in attendance all 3 games. The Saturday starter, Gunnar Hoagland, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago. If you have to have your final road trip of the year, your one true road trip, I have to imagine that's a pretty cool experience.
It was a cool experience. It was a cool environment to play in. That was an incredibly talented team, and it was actually the first time that I'd gotten to fly as a member of Princeton baseball. So we'd bust everywhere in the past, but we flew to Oxford. It was a little bit of an odyssey getting down there. We actually drove to Baltimore, flew from Baltimore through Tampa to Memphis, and then got on the bus in Memphis and drove to Oxford. So it was we were a little bit all over the place, but it was a fun travel experience, and I'm glad that we got to experience that as a team. And it's certainly something that I'll remember was that trip. So.
Let's talk a little more about traveling. Your father, of course, is ESPN's Reese Davis. I have to imagine you'd have had a chance to travel around with him on his work assignments. What's sort of the coolest trip? What's a trip that stands out that you've been able to go on with him?
There are a few trips that really stand out in my mind. One was he MCs the Heisman dinner. He's done that for a few years now, and one of the first years he did it, I grew up a big Auburn football fan because my mom went to Auburn. And the year that Cam Newton won the Heisman, I don't remember, I must have been 12 or 13. We got to go to the Heisman dinner. I got to meet Cam Newton. That was really cool. College game day was in Clemson when Deshaun Watson was Clemson's quarterback and Lamar Jackson was Louisville's quarterback. It was a Saturday night game. That was an unbelievable environment. Maybe the best environment I've seen a college football game in. So there have been a handful for sure, but those two definitely stick out. So.
Let's talk about the classroom. Obviously, learning has shifted remotely, and you're working on your thesis. Sort of talk about the academic side and some of the adjustments you've had to make to finish up the semester and work towards that degree.
Sure. I think the academic change has been relatively smooth. I think the professors, or at least my professors, have been doing a really good job of transitioning to the online mode of communication, the online mode of classes, recording lectures, whether it's through Zoom or posting those lectures on Blackboard. It's been relatively easy to communicate with them. They've been incredibly responsive through email and things like that. So they're really going out of their way, doing everything that they can to ease the difficulty of this time and ensure that we're able to still get as much of a good academic experience as we can out of this situation.
What's on the docket for you once you have the degree?
Sure. Once I have the degree, so with some injury issues earlier in my career, as well as this year, I've actually got one, if not hopefully 2 years of NCAA eligibility left. So we're gonna look to go to grad school and get a graduate degree and continue to play.
Final segment of the show. It's our show and tell segment presented by Conway Comfort Heating and Cooling. This is from the comfort of your own home, and I know you have a special guest that you're happy to be able to spend some time with back at home in Connecticut.
Sure, yeah, we do have a special guest. It's my dog, Mozzie. He's a standard poodle. He's 2 years old. I'm going to try to lure him in here with a treat right now. I had him right next to the door, but it looks like he's wandered off. But we'll get him over here, and my sister's going to help. Moz, come here. But no, it's just good to spend some time with family throughout all of this. Obviously, the circumstances are difficult, but I'm enjoying spending time with family. And here's my buddy Mozzie right here. Let's see, I'll get the camera so you get him in the shot here. There he is. I'll get him his treat. So he's helping all of us get through this, and as I'm sure a lot of people are leaning on family and pets back home, and we're doing the same here. So.
Chris, good catching up with you. Best of luck as you finish up the semester, and we'll talk to you later.
Great. Thank you, Cody. Take care.